Some of the most popular watches don't scream for attention. Think of the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, Nomos Tangenti, or Grand Seiko Snowflake. No clutter, no flash, just awesome, refined simplicity. And that's what makes them stand out. The same applies to military pilot watches. They might have been born in the cockpit with intentional design. It's that simplicity that makes them so appealing and one of the most popular styles. The big hour markers, minimal clutter, and the high contrast dials isn't trying to look cool, it just does. The utilitarian simplicity makes it timeless and ironically super stylish. Watch brands like IWC, Stowa, Zinn, and Laco follow that same design philosophy. Strip away the noise, and what's left is pure intentional design. These were some of the founding fathers of military pilot watches. Brands who weren't just making them, but tasked with creating essential tools during wartime. These watches drip with heritage and pretty much like wearable history. The triangle at the 12 o'clock, large Arabic numerals, and matte black dials makes for a design that is as cool looking as they are functional. As much as I love the OG military pilot watches, they can be quite expensive, ranging from around $1,000 up to $10K plus. So today we're taking a look at two watches that not only have that awesome vintage military design, but they're super affordable, well below $100. Militado draws inspiration from iconic military watches, specifically the World War II era Dirty Dozen timepieces commissioned by the British Ministry of Defense. Watches that pay homage to the classics that feature design elements like clean dials and cathedral hands, capturing the essence of vintage military style. Despite their affordability, Militado watches are constructed really well, using industry-standard materials like sapphire crystals with anti-reflective coatings, reliable movements like the Seiko VH31 Mecha Quartz and NH35 Automatic, and constructed in 316L stainless steel. Their watches are built for their intended purposes to be tools and have a lot of protection with screw-down crowns and 100 meters of water resistance. I currently own two Militado watches, the ML04 and the ML08. Two very different but equally awesome military-inspired watches, and they're probably not going to be the last ones in my collection. They're 2 for 2, and although it was their budget-friendly prices that first caught my attention, it's the overall build quality and designs that have won me over. The ML08 is my newest watch, and even though it's super simple, minimalist military pilot watch, there's a lot going on that really makes it special. For one, it really looks the part. It's a $60 watch that takes inspiration from the past and totally nailed it. The black dial has a matte finish that could look one note, but because there's a tiny bit of this textured grainy finish, it really helps let the dial pop and play with light just a little bit. Around the perimeter is a cool seconds track that has some nice detailing and various sections to help break things up and aid in legibility. And then there's the large numerals. Both the seconds and minute markers are all executed in a tan faux patina color that has just the right shade. It gives the look of an old school vintage watch while adding a ton of character to the design. I think what really helps take that minimalist layout to the next level are the cathedral style hands that sits on top of the dial. They trace back to early 20th century military pilot watches, so it definitely makes sense to see them here on this watch. It's not just the dial that makes the watch special. The case is executed really well with the right balance of polished and brushed sections, as well as really great size and overall design. Starting with the dimensions, the case is 38mm in diameter, which is a great size for an everyday watch, and it's only 10.2mm thick. A super thin profile that not only helps with comfort, but just looks super sleek and cool on the wrist. And the total length, or also known as lug-to-lug distance, is 44.5mm. A good size to make sure it has plenty of wrist presence without being top-heavy. Quick side note, I'm not a fan of NATO straps. I think this is much more a me problem than an actual issue with NATOs, but I just find them to look a bit weird. I think they can look really cool in pictures, but something about them in person just never works for me. But the ML08 does come with a really well-made black NATO strap that has a cool tan stripe down the middle. It definitely goes perfectly with the watch, and a great choice since this is the period-correct strap. Basically, the first NATO strap was introduced in 1973 by the British Ministry of Defense, but its original name wasn't NATO. It was the G10 strap, named after the G1098 form soldiers had to fill out to get one. If you do enjoy NATO straps, you'll definitely enjoy the one that comes with this watch. It's really soft and very durable. I do plan to wear the watch on a simple black leather strap and once in a while throw it on a brown leather one to just kind of tie in that faux patina a bit more. Either way, the watch is definitely a strap monster, so go buck wild with different colors and materials because it could definitely handle it. The rest of the specs are just as solid. On top, there's a really beautiful domed sapphire crystal with a clear anti-reflective coating. It creates just a tiny bit of dial distortions at certain angles that look super cool, but doesn't take away from legibility. Inside is one of my favorite types of movements, a Seiko Mecha Quartz, specifically the VH31. It's listed as having plus or minus 15 seconds per month accuracy, though with some minimal testing, I've been seeing more like 3 seconds slow per month. Aside from great timekeeping, Mecha Quartz has that sweeping hand motion like an automatic, so it's kind of like a win-win, best of both worlds. The rest of the protection is solid with the screw-down crown and 100 meters of water resistance. I've had this watch now for a couple weeks and it really hasn't left my wrist much. It's definitely been a delight to wear and it's just really awesome. The other Militado in my collection is the ML04. It still maintains the military design heritage, but a bit more modern with the sunburst blue dial and the little splash of red. This was my first watch I got from the brand, and it was definitely love at first sight. I was really surprised by how well done the polishing and brushing is, and the overall execution of the dial. The details are done much better than I expected and really won me over, which is a big reason why I wanted to get a second one. Because of the sunburst effect, the blue gives off a ton of character, transitioning from light to dark blue depending on light and reflections. It creates a lot of personality and different layers to the design. It's a super functional watch with not just the chronograph function, but also has the day and date. As much as it has a military-inspired design, it's definitely very sporty and a great-looking watch. The specs are stacked. Inside powering the engine is a Japanese quartz movement. Protecting the dial is a domed sapphire crystal with an anti-reflective coating, and the dimensions are right in that sweet spot, coming in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 11.8 in thickness, and a total length of 47.5 millimeters. I have a 7-inch wrist and definitely think this watch and the ML08 looks really great on me. The crown does screw down and there's 100 meters of water resistance. The lume is really great, not just on this watch but also the other one. The ML04 is priced a little bit higher since it does include a chronograph complication, and it's usually going for around $80 before any discounts. Another awesome price for a really stacked watch. One thing I find really interesting about military pilot watches is no one brand really owns the design. Originally, the military spec'd out the watch to their needs, and they all looked very similar from the beginning. Unlike the Submariner design, which is basically synonymous with Rolex, pilot watches have more of a shared design language. They've come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and many brands, both past and present, have put their spin on the formula. In fact, a lot of them look pretty darn similar, even across different watchmakers. So while Aliexpress watch brands do get some hate because they make homages, Militado's military pilot watches feel like they're playing a different game. They also make a handful of other really awesome watches, all within that military-inspired specs. Some are sandblasted, adding to the tool watch aesthetic, and others that showcase both the Type A and B dials. Most of the models do come in black, but they do have some in white and tan that look really awesome. The ML03 with that square case is super interesting and has a ton of old school charm. I think this might be my next Militado I get. That fancy version of a coin edge bezel plays so well with the slightly larger crown, small second subdial, and Roman numerals. The white dial pops so nicely and wouldn't be like any other watch in my collection, and I could use something different. I'm curious about all of you. What's your experiences with Militado? Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at a couple watches from this really special brand. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.